Hi guys, it's Dylan from Bijou Diamond Jewellery in London with another watch video, and today I'm going to take a look at 3 brands with some real notable watches from our Watches and Wonders 2023 releases. In addition to this video, I'm also going to do a video that looks really in depth at Patek Philippe's releases this year. I'll release that over the next couple of days, and I'll also do another video that look at their future releases as well this year. But let's crack on with these brands. The brands that I'm going to take a look at are IWC, Tudor, and also Panerai. I'm going to start with IWC. The IWC Engineer is obviously one of the main kind of attractions really of Watches and Wonders this year. It's an iconic watch. Obviously it's a Genta design from the 1970s, which makes it a really important part of watchmaking history, as he's an iconic designer that's designed watches like the Nautilus, the Royal Oak, the Overseas, etc, etc. So really important design and an important model for IWC as well. So the Engineer was designed for professionals like scientists that worked in a high magnetic environment. Similar to the Milgauss from Rolex, this watch was designed to repel magnetic fields and the influence of magnetic fields on the movement, which has a detrimental effect on movement. Yeah, the watch basically has an iron cage built around the movement that helps to eradicate some of or protect the movement against magnetic fields essentially. And again, like I said, it's designed for watchers and scientists that were working in high magnetic environments. So the watch was released in the 70s, like I said before, but IWC for the first time in a very long time have revamped this watch from literally head to toe, from bezel to clasp. Everything is updated, but still staying true to the original silhouette and original style of the Engineer, which is really cool to see. It's had a new bezel on it. It's had a new case design as well, again staying true to the original one but refined. It's had a new bracelet, new clasp, new dials, new everything. The immediate thing you really recognize on this watch is that checkerboard style dial, which even though I'm not a major fan of it, it is true to the original watch from the 70s that they released. This one is just a little bit more heightened, almost carbon fiber style, which yeah, I don't love, but it is true to the original, which is nice. What is also really cool is that they released this green-blue dial, which actually is my favorite one that they've released. The reason being is it's bold, it's out there, it's different, and we've seen a lot of brands this year actually going for alternative color schemes rather than just the standard gray, white, black, blue, sometimes green. It's nice to see these alternative colors, especially from Rolex. We've seen, from the most conservative brand, i.e. Rolex, we've seen some really interesting dial colors this year, which is nice, and this is one of them. So that's why I want to give this kind of watch, this dial variation, kind of king or queen spot for IWC this year. Another thing that I know a lot of fans will love about this watch is that now the bezel lines up properly. Previously, or when this watch was released, the bezel would leave the factory in all kind of different orientations, and obviously as it's a 5-screw bezel, there's always this kind of gap or kind of mismatch from where the screw at the top of the bezel aligns with 12 o'clock or doesn't, in most cases, doesn't quite align at 12 o'clock. So they've remodeled that bezel and the case so that the bezel always sits or is locked into position at 12 o'clock like that. So it always looks perfectly aligned, which is much, much better. Overall, really cool to see IWC releasing the Engineer and kind of revamping an original classic for them. It won't be very popular with our clients because we don't really sell that many IWC watches, but I'm sure the IWC fans and existing clients will definitely have this on their kind of hit list of watches they want to buy for this year. Moving on now to Tudor. Tudor released some really cool, important watches this year, and the most notable obviously being the new Black Bay 54, which harks back to the original Tudor Submariner released in 1954. So it's really cool to see them adding kind of a new line to the Black Bay line, which is already a very in-depth line, which is cool. But what's beautiful about this is it's in a 37mm case size, which is just so cool. It now means in the Black Bay line we have a 41mm in the Black Bay standard variant. Then we've got the Black Bay 58, which is 39mm, and now we've got the Black Bay 54, which is 37. So we've got a huge range, which is fantastic. I wish that Rolex would take a leaf out of their sister brand's book and do the same for Submariner, for example, if they were to release a special 37, 38mm Submariner, now that we've got the 41mm Submariner, that could be really cool. And they could easily do it and only make it available in steel, for example. But yeah, we know Rolex won't do that, so we can just keep our fingers crossed and hope forever. This Black Bay 54, honestly, is probably the first Tudor that I would say I would honestly love to go out and buy this watch with my own money. It is a really cool piece, and it's fantastic to see them harking back to that original smaller sized dive watch, which is really rare for us to see. I mean, it's almost non-existent in the industry to find a dive watch below 40mm, so this is really cool. I loved the 58 when they released it, but it is quite a deep watch, so despite the fact it is 39mm, it does still wear quite large, whereas this is going to wear beautifully. I can't wait to see one in real life. Yeah, very cool piece. Really glad they brought this one out. And as with most people, I'll probably buy this on the bracelet. The standard Black Bay, or the 41mm, also received some updates this year. That's kind of the biggest updates really in Tudor's collection, was on these new red bezel Black Bay 41mm versions. The new red bezels kind of hark back to the original Black Bay a few years ago released. We have new bezel edges as well, rather than the very fine teeth that we normally see on the Black Bay line. We now have these slightly altered teeth, more pronounced. We also have a new crown as well, again similar style, kind of change to the bezel that we've seen. Rather than those finer teeth, we've now gone for something a bit more pronounced and a bit more defined, which I think looks much better. So yeah, I'm sure we'll see that trickle down into the rest of the collection. We also have a slightly slimmer case design as well, which is nice to see. Yeah, fingers crossed they'll trickle that through to the rest of the watches, because I think this is a really nice design change and definitely the right move for Tudor, because we do find a lot of clients, especially our clients, not going for the Black Bay just purely on the fact that it is incredibly deep. So to see them slim it out a little bit is really nice. They also released a Jubilee bracelet variation for the Black Bay as well, which is really nice to see, as well as a Jubilee options and loads of other options on the steel bezel Black Bays too, which is cool. Another cool watch that people were really excited about from Tudor was the Black Bay GMT, now available in a white opaline dial, which is really nice. That watch has no changes other than just the white dial. But yeah, really nice to see that as an additional option. I think that will do really well. The highlight for me, without a doubt, from Tudor is definitely that Black Bay 54 though. I can't wait to see it and try it on. One thing that a lot of people definitely got excited about from Tudor this year, which is something that me and probably most of our clients won't care so much about, is the fact they now use Meta certification on their movements, which is a really cool move for them. I mean, Meta is a very strict certification household body, meaning that there is kind of no leniency. You either have to have a perfect movement or you don't. And so it's a bold move from them, a great marketing move, showing that yes, our price point is relatively low in the industry, but we are still able to maintain a very high standard of craftsmanship and movements. So I do respect that. At the end of the day though, it doesn't change anything for us in terms of the reliability or the watches that we're actually buying. It's just about kind of the label they can put on it. Moving on now to Panerai. Panerai for me has been consistently a really fantastic leader in the industry every single year for releases. And they're a really small brand. To see them pushing on ahead, and really obviously mainly in sustainability, that's where they're really leading the way. And I hope that there are the bigger brands that have the resources and should be listening to what Panerai is doing start following suit, because what Panerai is doing is truly fantastic. But this year is no different. They've still done fantastic watches. This year they've taken a look, or specifically taken a look at revamping or adding models to their Radiomir collection. Just quickly, briefly, history on the Radiomir watches. The Radiomir was released quite a few years ago, basically designed for the military, the Italian military, and was used by them between the 1930s and 1970s. Radiomir basically it refers to the lume on the dial, as it was a very bright lume, and that allowed the users or the military personnel to basically read the watch in the dark. So that's Radiomir. And Panerai has basically just focused this Watches and Wonders 2023 releases just on that collection and revamping that collection, which is really cool to see. we're going to start down at the steel end. So we've got three new references on new models, which is the 1347, 1348, 1349. Really cool looking watches. They all are made from E-steel, which is their new recycled steel material, which is just so cool to see them doing that. They started doing that a couple of years ago, which is fantastic. Again, other brands should be doing this too. But all the cases in this new references of radio mirrors are kind of hand finished. The cases are kind of distressed looking, almost scratched up and used. They've got like a PVD kind of dark coating on them in certain areas. It looks really beautiful, like really well patinaed. Often when brands try and make a watch look vintage or old, it doesn't quite work. But Panerai has absolutely nailed this. This case looks brilliant. Like it genuinely could easily be 60, 70 years old, and they've done it. It's bang on. And the case, as beautiful as it is, the kind of patinaing and aging of this watch doesn't end just there. They've even done the dials in a really clever way and made the lume almost like a orangey, yellowy, patinaed, faded look, which is beautiful. I absolutely love that. That's one of my favorite things on watches. It's like a patinaed lume. The strap also has matching stitching to this too, which is really, really cool. So let's dive into the actual models they released. So the 1347 is this brownie colored watch, which is really lovely looking. I like that one a lot. The next one is 1348, which is all blue, which is absolutely beautiful. That's easily my favorite watch from Panerai this year. Maybe one of my favorite watches released in Watches and Wonders, full stop. So yeah, very cool watch. And the reason why I prefer the blue over the brown is because the brown has the same blue hands that we see on the blue watch. And I think if they'd gone for some brown hands or grey hands or whatever on the grey, I probably would have chosen the grey, but on the brown, I would have probably chosen the brown. But actually, because you're going for blue hands, I think everything ties together much more nicely on the blue watch. They also offer a green variation that's a slightly different dial setup. I just personally prefer the 1347, 1348 versions over this one, just because I prefer the balance the dial has on the other watches. The balance on the dials, on the 1347 and 48 is beautiful. These watches are 8 giorni watches, which means 8-day power reserve, which is pretty incredible. Very, very cool to see that level of power reserve on a watch that's in a pretty good price point. So yeah, beautiful 8 giorni watches, radio mirrors, 3 E-steels. Moving on after the E-steels, we've got a rose gold variation with a white dial. Beautiful, beautiful radio mirror watches. Very, very classic looking watch. I really, really like that watch. Very clean, and it's not going to be as popular as the steel watches, but it's nice for the clients that already own the steel watches to have the option to look at something more dressy like the rose gold. And it's nice they've kept it very clean looking too. They also released some annual calendar variations of this watch too, which is very, very cool, of the radio mirror. We have an annual calendar in rose gold with this amazing blue strap and blue dial. Very bold looking watch, really, really cool. And we also have a platinum variation with a platinum case, a black strap, and a kind of reddy, kind of sunbursty patina dial. Really beautiful. What I think is really cool about Panerai is, even though we know those top end watches won't be as popular as the steel variations, it's brilliant that they're offering a full spectrum of revamping, a full spectrum of a line, the radio mirror. They've catered for the clients looking at steel, but they've also catered for those clients that are looking for the very high-end watches. And that's really nice to see. Not often do we find brands doing that. They often just focus on one particular area of the market. So it's good to see them focusing across the whole line. That concludes my video looking at just some other watches released this year at Watches and Wonders 2023. Stay tuned for my Patek Philippe video. That's going to be very much more in depth than this one. And as always, if you're interested in any of the watches mentioned in this video, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. Our details are at the end of the video and also in the description. It'd be a pleasure to call any of these watches into stock for you.